Hello, everyone. My name is Venkatesh, and I'm going to present a seminar on the topic getting started with web services testing using soapUI. So let's get started. So this page is basically my profile. So let's get started. These are the topics which we'll be covering today. First one is what is a web service. Next is XML, WSDL, what are APIs, what is soapUI basically. And then we'll be doing a demonstration on a sample project. And then we'll do some work on test suites, what are they and how are they defined in soapUI. And the next is we'll discuss a few assertions in soapUI. So what is basically a web service? A web service is a collection of protocols to exchange data between two applications or a system over a network. So let's start with an example. We often book air tickets or railway tickets and all. So whenever we do so, for example, there is a site for booking air tickets on Indigo, for example. We can directly go to their site and book air tickets. Instead, many people book the tickets from other third-party sites like GoIBibo and Yatra and Make My Trip and etc. So what's the difference? I mean, you can book here and you can also book in their home site. What Indigo people have done is that they have exposed their web services so that these third-party sites, all these travel sites, can access their web services and do the reservation for ourselves. So this is just an example of how web services, what a web services is and how we use it in our day-to-day lives. Let's go through the points. A web service supports interoperable machine-to-machine interaction over a network. So, whatever just I said. So a web service is a software program which allows us to allows a computer to interact with other applications, other programs. I mean maybe a system which is on a network. I mean, anything. So they have got no GUI. There's no graphical user interface. So we cannot, I mean, it's not like an application that we'll just log in, there will be buttons and all, and we'll type a user ID and whatever. We do not provide information through a GUI, and we do not get a human readable response. They take input as XML and provide output as XML. I mean, mostly, I mean, there are other alternatives, but mostly the web services, I mean, the ones which we'll be discussing today, I mean, we'll be keeping it encircled with XMLs. They take input as an XML, and also the response is an XML. So we all know that XMLs are not human readable. I mean, of course they are, but you need to dig deeper and you need to have good understanding. So that's what it is. Next, a web service is a collection of several open protocols which allow us to communicate. I mean, which allows a system or an application to communicate to another system or application over a network. These basically use XMLs, WSDLs, and SOAP in our case. I mean, there can be other protocols like REST and JSON and all can be used, but we'll be concentrating ourselves on SOAP, WSDL, and XMLs. So XML is used to tag data. SOAP is the communication protocol, and WSDL defines what services and methods we are going to use. I mean, what are the services exposed by the web service? What are the methods exposed by the web service? So why XML? For example, let's do a case study. Suppose there is for example, an insurance company, and there is another insurance company which the first one has acquired. Now everyone, I mean, in this age, we all have softwares and all, everything is digitized, isn't it? We've got our softwares. For example, the first company has designed its company software in .NET, but the second one has completely made, I mean, produced its software in J2E. So obviously there is no connection between these two. It's not easy to club both and I mean work. So when you are acquiring, obviously you need to retrieve data from both of the servers. I mean the servers of the both of the companies. You'll have to retrieve data. You'll have to do modifications, and you'll need to carry out each and every function, which should be. I mean there's no interoperability between these two technologies. That's what I'm saying, trying to say. You cannot. I mean, one company's software cannot communicate with the software of the second company. So because of this dependencies on the software. So what a web services does is it uses plain text format. I mean, you just need, pass your data as a plain text. There's a parser at the receiver end. It will pass all the data, and it will give you whatever data you require in plain text, and you're free to use it in the way you want. So this is a major advantage of a web service. It allows communication and interoperability between two systems which are not running on the same domain or the same technology. So XML is used because it can hold data as tags. I mean, you can send data as tags, and you can have custom tags in XML. I mean, you can define your own tags, and you can send data. And as I said, it's used for communication between machines, used to hold data, and it's flexible to design custom tags. It gives us the flexibility to design custom tags. So this is a gist on XML, I guess. Going deeper is not in the scope, so we'll just go to the next slide. So WSDL. What is WSDL? A web service definition language, or WSDL, gives you. I'm sorry for that. Okay, let's continue. So WSDL basically gives you an idea about the web service. So you have designed a web service, that's all fine. But somebody who is using it or maybe testing it has to know what are the methods that are exposed in the web service, and he'll have to know what are the parameters which are acceptable for the WSDL. I mean, you cannot just put whatever values you want. I mean, there are some restrictions, like the validation we do in our day-to-day testing. All values are not acceptable. So this also gives an idea about what are the values which you can provide, what are the parameters you can pass, what are the methods you can use in this web service, and also the details. I mean, it's a very lengthy XML document. Okay, so let's see the points. It's an XML format document, as I said. The document is based on XML, and it is designed using several tags and all. It describes the services exposed. It describes the services exposed by the web service. Provides the methods a web services uses. So it basically gives you an idea what are the methods. I mean, for example, you use air ticketing web service. So it will give you the parameters which it will take is the date, and the number of passengers, and so the source and the destination. These are the parameters which you can pass. You cannot, I mean, pass any random data into that web service. And what it will give you in response is the availability of flights and seats. So in this case, the method is reservation search or anything. I mean, you can name the method anything, but it can be reservation service or something. Provides with parameters taken by a web service. So it basically tells you what are the parameters acceptable with the web service. The next one is API. I guess most of us know what an API is. It's an interface. And what primarily we are doing here, we are testing an API. It specifies how a software component should interact with each other. That's what the definition says. That an API helps in Okay. An API helps, an API is an interface for, between two systems or applications or anything. So it's basically a set of protocols for communication, like I said. So here we'll be discussing about SOAP and REST. So what is SOAP? SOAP is Simple Object Access Protocol. Just as I said, it is a protocol for communication. Using this protocol, you send messages, you receive response, you send the request and all. So this is basically a communication protocol. I guess that idea is the primary which we'll have to have now. The next one is representational state transfer. So this is a new protocol. Because of the complexities involved with SOAP, they are coming up with REST, and they call it RESTful API sometimes. So this is actually an architecture using which you can communicate, send requests, send response. So this is again another protocol. We also have some alternatives, like we have got JSON. We can use JSON instead of XMLs and all. So JSON is object notation and is a JavaScript based language, and you send key value pairs instead of, likewise, we send tags in XML. We can send the data in the tags, but in JSON we use key value pairs. So let's not go deep into those concepts and stick to this topic. So what is SOAP UI? As I said, there's no GUI for any web service. You cannot just, the code is not human readable. You need, it's only machine readable code, and you don't have, you cannot just go and manipulate it and manipulate the request and get the response. And of course, you can test it, but it's a Herculean task. It's a very difficult task to do. So SOAP UI, as the name suggests, provides user interface for testing these web services. And it is an API testing tool which provides us with the UI for testing any web service. There's a UI where you can input your parameters, whatever you want to pass to the web service, and you can also see the response coming from the web service. If there is a failure, you can get what the failure is. You can see, you can add assertions, you can add test cases, you can design a lot of things in this. So this is basically designed to make the process of API testing easier. So there is an open source version for this SOAP UI, which we'll be seeing right now. There's also a pro version, but there with some advanced features, like you don't need to do much of coding and all. You can just drag and drop and click and do a lot of functions and all. Can perform both functional and non-functional tests. SOAP UI can test the functionality. You can test uh, whether the function is working properly or not. Whether the service is functioning properly or not. And you can also do certain non-functional tests like load tests and security tests, etc., with SOAP UI. It supports a lot of things like SOAP, REST, JDBC, JVM, HTTP, and all. Downloading and installing, I guess you can go to this link and download SOAP UI for Windows or Mac or Linux. And installation, I guess, is quite straightforward. You can just download the installer, and upon clicking, the installation wizard starts up, and we all are good to install it. So it's time we do a demonstration of this. I'll be using a demo project, and I'll show you what SOAP UI is, what it does, and how you can benefit from it. I have hosted a web service in my local, which we'll be using for the testing. I mean, you can primarily for testing any web service, you need a WSDL. You need the WSDL, which exposes all the services provided by that web service. And then in that WSDL, you'll have several requests and responses. I mean, you'll have several requests actually, and you can click on them in the editor. You can modify those requests. And then when you run those, you'll get a response for that. So these are the deployed services. I mean, I've deployed these following services in my local, and we can get the WSDL by clicking on any of the services. So this project is basically a hotel reservation website. I mean, it's not very much accurate, but it's a demo project on how you can reserve a hotel, how you can book a room in a hotel and all. So this is how soapUI's startup page appears to be. So what we'll do is, this is the workspace. The left pane is the workspace, and you can go and create a new project. We'll be using a new soap project because we'll be using soap services here. So you can name the project anything, I mean, so that you will be able to identify it. So you should name it with your convenience. I'm naming it as hotel reservation. And we'll be using this WSDL over here. See, it's not mandatory to provide a WSDL whenever you are creating a project. I mean, that's a different thing. Whenever you are designing a mocking web services mocking, I mean, you need to write all the test cases and describe the behavior of the web services even before the development. At that time, you can use the mocking service, and it's not really necessary to provide any initial WSDL while creating a program. But we'll do it now for the for the sake of understanding. So it is fetching all this soap services and all the requests and all. Here we can see reservation service soap 1.1 bindings and reservation services soap 1.2 bindings. Basically, there's no much difference. The difference is the version. So there is a soap version 1.1 and there is soap version 1.2. So we can follow either one. It doesn't make any difference. So this is one service, but there are more. This is another WSDL, which I'll be adding to the same project. You can right click on that project and add another WSDL over there. So this is another web service with a set of requests. And there is a third one as well. Okay, so we have added all the services to soapUI. So let's go to what are the services we just added. The first one is reservation service. Here we can add a reservation, remove a reservation, and get the reservation details. The second one is room management service. We can add a room, delete a room, and get the details of the room. And the third one is guest management service. Here you can get the guest details, add a guest, and delete a guest. So these are the services which we'll be testing right now. As I said, the SOAP 1.2 bindings can be removed because they don't make any difference. I mean, SOAP 1.1 bindings and 1.2 bindings are all same, just the difference is the version. We can work on with one. So I'm just removing all these 1.2 binding. Okay. So let's get started with add guest. We'll be adding a guest. So this is how the UI looks. Now, here you can see that you've got question marks over here. Now, these are the fields where you can enter your data. And I mean, all the data, whatever parameters you want to pass to the web service can be passed only in this section. I mean, between these two tags. Whenever the web service is developed, they provide certain tags. I mean, which will be the input tags. Okay. Only in those tags you can input your data. So while this web service was developed, we've got the parameters like name, address, and age. Only these three parameters can be passed to the web service. So let's do a test. So can somebody, I mean, okay. Can somebody tell me your name so that we'll book a reservation for you in a hotel? Sorry? Okay, John Doe. John Doe it is. And can someone tell me age for this? John Doe. Okay, sorry, address. Yes. I can't hear you. Can you be? Sorry. Okay, 22nd. Jump Street. And age. Age should be? Sorry? 25. Okay. So this is the run button. You need to run it for the request to run. So this will send a request to the web service and fetch you the response. Okay. So this is the response pane. In this window, we'll get whatever the response that is sent by the web service. So we get a true here when it's returning true, which means that the reservation, I mean, you have been successfully added to the database. So let's check the database first. I mean, if actually that has worked or not. Sorry? See, actually, there is a JDBC connector in this project. I mean, whenever I deployed this project, there was a JDBC connector which you need to put. Okay, so there was a connection was made between the database and the web service. Yes, I mean, you need to see. Actually, I did it because of my convenience. I could have used a WSDL of any service. For example, there is a web service for getting the weather of all the states and countries and all across the world. There is an international weather WSDL which I can use and I can demonstrate it. But instead, I chose to use this because it would be easy for me to demonstrate. I mean, demonstrate the various situations and cases I cannot demonstrate each and everything by using a third-party WSDL. I mean, but whenever you are testing, you need not do all this JDBC connections and starting the server and setting up a database and all. That's all actually not required. I'm just showing you because this entire setup is present in my local. So I'm just showing because I have access to the database and I can show you that it has been that whatever request we sent was successful. I'm just showing you in the database. But usually whenever you are testing something, I mean, I don't know whether you'll be having access to the database or not. And if I use any third-party WSDL, then I'm sure that I won't be having access to the database, and I won't be able to show you if that request actually went through. Yes. Sorry? Yes. Yes. No. See, I have done this setup because of my convenience. I could have used any other third-party WSDLs, but the only thing is I won't be able to demonstrate you each and every situation. So, but whenever you will be testing, it's not mandatory that you will be having access to the database or you will have to run the server. So, for example, I'm running the data. I have deployed my web services in an Apache Access to server, and I have deployed it. I have started that server, and I'm accessing all the web services through that server. But you need not do everything. You need not do all this. All you need to do is take a WSDL. For example, whenever you are testing, you will be provided with a WSDL. You just need to put it, and that WSDL will fetch all the services which come along with that WSDL. I mean, for your convenience, I'll also show you how to work with a, third-party WSDL. I mean, when we are done with this. So, as you said, John Doe, 22nd Jump Street, age 25, appears in our database. So, which means that the service actually, I mean, the request went through and the response was correct. So, this is true when the web service, is working fine. But what if I run it again? I'm running it again, and I get an error saying guest already exists. So, I mean, this is a setup made for this particular project that you cannot duplicate an entry. So, when you run the web service again, it shows me an error. So this is how it works. I mean, the XML, there was a request and it was declined because there was an existing entry in the database, so the request was declined. So this is a fault, and I'll show you how to handle all these faults and using the assertions and all. I mean, I'll be covering test cases and assertions, and I'll tell you what to do with all these SOAP faults and etc. So I successfully created a guest. I have added a guest. So now let's look into the third, sorry, we'll be looking into this get guest details service. All you need to do is type the name of the guest, and it will fetch the data from the database. So you can see that the UI, sorry, not the UI, the XML format is a bit different from that of the previous service, because I mean, the parameters which we are passing are different here. So this is a different request, and I mean, you can have several requests and all within one service. Sorry? Yes, you can always modify your request. For example, it was. Okay. Okay. Sorry, I didn't get you. You will copy what? Okay. Yes. 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 Okay. No, it's not possible because I mean, it can be made possible. It depends how the service was defined. No, for now it's not possible. For now, it will take only one set of parameters and it will give you the response. For example, I mean, it's analogous to train booking or a flight booking site. You don't give 2 or 3 dates, do you? Uh, Sorry? Yes, persons can be multiple. That's why there is another tag. I mean, whenever you are booking an airline ticket, you need to specify how many travelers are going to travel, and that is a data tag. There you are going to pass the number of people. No, I mean, see, this is a service with certain restrictions. You can't just do randomly whatever you want. It has got its restrictions, and it differs. I mean, it can differ from my web service to your web service and all. I mean, they can have all different inputs, and they can take different input values. They can be different WSDLs. So it depends on how you provide the permissions. Okay. Yes, that is given in a service description. Every WSDL comes with a service description. It's actually nothing. It's a simple WSDL page. I mean, you just need to paste the WSDL in your browser and you'll get the service description. So here are a lot of tags. You can go through all those and, for example, I'll show you. Hold on. So this is a reservation service, and okay, let's go to add guest and guest management service. So here, whatever you can do is, I guess you can see this element, delete guest is something which you can perform. Add guest is what you can perform. And get guest details must be somewhere around. Yet, get guest details. And it is associated with requests and responses, like get guest detail request, get guest detail response, and all. But basically, these are the 3 services which you can perform over here. And whenever you see this WSDL, you'll get to know what are the services. I mean, as I said, a WSDL shows you what are the services exposed. So whenever you go through this WSDL, you will be having an idea that, okay, these are the services which I can perform with this WSDL, with this web service. So you'll have to basically see this WSDL in order to know what are the services you can perform. I mean, for your convenience, as you said, I'll also show you a third-party WSDL which has got all the methods and all, what are the restrictions and how you can pass them, etc. Okay, so where were we? So we were here, get guest details. So I'll just send. Okay, sorry, this is delete, I guess. So I'm sending John Doe over here with this request, and I'll get the reservation details of John Doe from. I mean, this request goes to the database. I mean, goes to the web services, request the data from the database, and fetches you all this data which is associated with that particular guest. So over here, I guess it's good. I mean, I'm getting the response correctly. But what if I provide something, a name of a guest who doesn't actually exist in the data? For example, just tell me a random name. Alan. Now, if I run it, I get an error. I mean, initially it will throw an exception, but in the code you have written an exception handling mechanism, and it returns a fault string that guest does not exist. I mean, if the exception would not have been handled, it would obviously throw an undefined error. But we also do exception handling, and that's why we are getting a response that the guest is not present in the database. So I guess we are done with add guest and get guest details. Now we'll be deleting the guest. I'm running it. I don't get any response. So this is because you can see here, whenever this doesn't this request is not accompanied by a response. This only sends a request. Whenever this service was written, there was no response for this service. You'll just go simply to the database and you'll just delete that particular entry, and you won't get any response for that. I mean, there can be, you can also you can always write a response code for this, and you'll get a response as well. But in this web service, there comes no response. That's why there is only a one-way arrow for this request over here. So that was, I've deleted that John Doe. Let's go and verify in the database. There's no John Doe. So we are pretty sure that this web service is working. But will you always go there and go to the database and check if this entry if this request has run successfully and the response was correct and all? You cannot always go to the database and check and do all these things. So assertions and test cases come in handy. You write a set of test cases, you add a few assertions, and then you just run your test case. If the assertion passes, then it says that your web service is working fine and the functionality is fine. We'll be discussing assertions and test cases, but prior to that, I guess I'll have to show you a third-party WSDL. So there are a lot of these. All are WSDLs. You can select anyone from here. Like send SMS India or anything. You can send free SMS using this. But the problem is it doesn't work. It works only with a few service providers, which are extinct now in India. So this is the WSDL for the weather, global weather. And you can get the service description from here. Sorry, it's not opening. Okay. WSDL and its service description. So looking at this, we can get a brief idea what are the services here. Get weather response. You can get weather for a particular entry. Get cities by country is another method. Sorry, get weather is one method, and get cities by countries is another method. Now, get weather does is you'll need to provide the city and the country, and it will fetch from the database if there is a location with that particular name and country. It will return you the weather details of that particular location. And what get cities by country method does is it will give you all the cities for a particular country. You'll have to pass a country and it will give you all the cities for that particular country. So let's see how it works. Create a new project. Name it weather service. I'm pasting the WSDL which I got from that website. So this is the weather service requests and responses. As I said, we've got two services over here: get cities by country and get weather. We'll see. Again, similarly, we'll replace the question mark with our values. We'll pass India, I guess. What do we get? There is a list of a long list of cities in India, like it is Ahmedabad, Akola, Aurangabad, and you'll get a long list of cities for this country. And another one is get weather. So you'll need to provide the city name. I'm providing Kolkata. Country name should be India, because whenever, I mean, they might have a mechanism to match cities with countries, and you cannot just mention Kolkata and the country be Denmark or USA and something. You can't do this. Then they're saying data not found. I guess we have entered. I don't know. Maybe Kolkata is not there in their database. Okay, we can try Bhubaneswar. Okay, so we get a response. Location Bhubaneswar, India, and latitudes, longitudes, coordinates, and weather details along with it. Sky condition mostly cloudy, and all these weather details. I mean, we are not judging the accuracy of this weather service, but we are just seeing if we are getting a response back from it. So as you said, we just use the WSDL. We are not using any database over here. We don't have access to the database. And we are not hosting this web service in our local. We need not start a server, and we need not deploy this service in our server to get this web service functional. It is running on some server, I don't know, somewhere in the world. I'm just using the WSDL, and it does the work for me. So I guess this answers your question, isn't it? Okay. So we'll get back to our previous project, and we'll see what are test cases and test suits, test steps, etc. I guess we all know what a test case is. We all know what test steps are, and when we combine several test cases, it's a test suite, isn't it? So it's nothing different here in soapUI, but I'll just show you how to create a test case or a test suite. So this is a particular request, and I want to create a test case out of this request. I want to maybe add this request in a test case or as a test step. Or else what I can do is I can create a test case entirely with this service. So what I'll basically do is, there's a button to create a test suite over here just next to the run button. Okay, so I'll name this test suite as guest management service test suite. I'll have to provide a name for this test case as well. Let's name it as, let it be test case 1. For now, let's just follow with the default values. Actually, even I'm exploring things in soapUI right now, and I don't know what each and everything does. So let's go with the default values. So now you can see that there is a test case for add guest. There is a test case for add guest request. You can click on it and you'll get a test case editor over here. Let it be John Doe, because we have already removed John Doe from our database, so it won't be a problem if we use that again. I mean, you can actually name it anything for a test case, but let it be John Doe. And I'm running the test case right now, and same, I'm getting a response that it's true and the guest has been added. So this is all fine till now, but what if there is an error? I mean, what if the web services throws an error that maybe if I'll run the web service again, I'm getting a fault. I'm getting a SOAP fault. But still my web service is, but still my test case is passing, isn't it? It's showing as green over here, so which means that my test case is passing. Even if my data has not been entered into the database, I'm unable to add a guest into the database, but still my test case is showing as passed. So what you can do is you can add an assertion over here. So let's see what are the types of assertions and why we need to. Okay, test suits, I guess we'll do it in, I mean, test suits and assertions go hand in hand, so I guess we'll cover test suits with assertions. And let's see what assertions are. What is an assertion actually? Literally, you're just asserting something. I mean, you've got to compare two things. That's what is assertion. And it's not anything different in testing. We just have a specified value. I mean, we've got a model value or a sample value, which we are comparing with the actual result. So if we'll compare both these values, and if these values are same, then the assertion is said to be passed, or else it will fail. Why assertions? I just showed you a demo that why we need an assertion. We need an assertion because there can be situations when your test case may pass, but actually the request has failed. So now we can see what are the types of assertions over here. Contains assertion, not contains, SOAP fault, not SOAP fault, and XPath match assertions. So I guess we can use all these assertions to check if our request was running successfully or not. So can you suggest which exception will be good to add in this particular scenario? Anyone over here from the list? I mean, I've told contains assertion, not contains assertion. I mean, I'll come and I'll explain each assertion in detail, but I was just asking you if you have a random idea which assertion can be used to make this test case actually a perfect one. Yes, of course, contains can be used. What basically contains is it checks for a string token. I mean, forget about token. It checks for a particular string in the response. Whenever you add this contains assertion, it will check the presence of the particular string which you entered in the response. If the string is present, then it will be said that your test case has passed. I mean, sorry, your assertion has passed. If the string is not present, then obviously it will fail. And when an assertion fails, your test case fails, obviously. So you can add an assertion from here. So this is recently used, so I've used all these assertions previously, so I can see all these assertions. But you can see contains assertion from over here, property and content. From there you can use the contains assertion. Now what I can do is I can just simply type it for, I'm sorry, let's see what was the request when the test case passed. The request was true, sorry, the response was true, isn't it, whenever the test case passed. So I can simply go and write true over there in the contains assertion. Or else you can have regular expression instead of a particular token. There is a syntax for a regular expression which I'll be sharing with you, but let's now forget about the regular expression and see how the plain text works. And I'm adding it. It shows that the contains assertion has failed because it doesn't find the word true in the response. So what we can do is we can check it with another name like Subrajyoti, I guess. Change the address as well. How old are you? 22? 23? Okay, we'll go with 23. And I'm running the test case again. And I'm getting true as the response. And I can see that my assertion has passed and also my test case. So this is how you can add a contains assertion. Okay, I guess we are running out of time. I'll try to cover all the assertions as soon as possible. Sorry? Yes. So I need to cover all the assertions. I mean, not all, but most of them. So we're done with contains assertion, I guess. So we'll see what a not contains assertion does. So as the name suggests, it's quite obvious that it should be opposite to the contains assertion. I can add a not contains assertion over here. And whatever I enter here, soapUI will check for that particular string in the response, and if it is found, the assertion will fail. And if the assertion is not, if the string is not found, then the assertion will pass. So what should we write here? It's returning true, isn't it? But what if I run it again? It'll show me an error. So what we can do, I can just copy this fault string. We can see a node fault string over here, isn't it? I guess it is visible. This fault string node. We can simply copy this text fault string and add it in the not contains assertion. Okay. We see that this has failed. Even the not contains has failed because there is, the text is present in the response. That's why this assertion has also failed. I hope it's clear, or you guys have some doubt. Shubhra, you seem a bit confused. Sorry? So, see, if I run it again, it will obviously give me a fault because this particular entry is already there in the database. And I'm getting a fault for this particular entry. Did you get it now? I'm just changing it. Changing the entries again. I'll run it. What do you see? All the assertions have passed, isn't it? So I guess I'm clear on contains and not contains. You want me to continue with the rest of the assertions, or should we drop it for now? Sorry? Yes, each assertion will take at least 2 to 3 minutes. That's the minimum, I guess, because I need to tell you what. There are a lot of assertions actually, but we won't be covering all. Mostly, 3 more assertions are left: soap fault, not soap fault, and XPath match. And apart from that, there are several other assertions as well. If you want, we can do a separate seminar on assertions particularly. I guess that will be best because we are running out of time and there are a lot more to cover. I guess you guys have understood somewhat. I mean, I was successfully, I was successful in delivering some knowledge to you guys. So let's end up the presentation. Any questions at the end? Sorry, yes. No, it will only take account of the string which is present in between two tags, which comes as a response. It won't count the tags and all technical aspects. No, no, no. It's okay. I'm just telling you. Okay. So whenever you just do it, it will only consider the strings which are coming, the values which are coming from the tags. I mean, the data between the tags is where the soapUI will search for the particular string. Okay. Any more questions? Okay. I'm not sure you can print a success message, but you will be getting a log. Okay, I mean, whenever you run a test suite or a test case, a log is generated. I mean, that comes afterwards. Actually, I thought I should keep it for the next session. I mean, if we ever do it. So there'll be a log file generated after you run your test case, and that will be each and every response and a failure, or all this past results, and everything will be logged over there, and you can get a copy. I mean, you can take that file in several formats like CSV format, or you can generate any format and you can get that report. Okay. Anything else? Okay.
Can we read data from any external files and import those data?
Yes. Yes, there is a feature like you can upload a CSV file. You can upload. I mean, this is data-driven testing, isn't it? What you are saying. There'll be a XML file. You can enter all your data over there, and you can upload that particular file. Or I mean, there is an option to read all those datas for particular fields in soapUI. You can read all those particular datas for particular fields. Yes. There is a provision. I mean, there is actually a lot of things in soapUI which, I mean, is not possible to cover in a single session. But I mean, there are, yes, no, there are a lot of features. Okay, that's all. Thank you, everyone.